Okay, good afternoon from me. Thanks for introduction, and the topic for today is management, network management, and integrations. So let me start. Yeah, we will share the slides if necessary, if you wish. Definitely, no problem at all. And there will be also recording available after that. So let me start with first some live demo of the management, and then I will continue and I will follow from the demonstration to PowerPoint. So first of all, there is a case. Okay, so we call it demo kit, and the idea is quite simple. With this demo kit, I do have here some small and easy access point, no trouble at all. I do have a switch, and I do have some small, let's call it server, and you will see that there is some management platform for such small and easy network. What I did, I connected to the management platform, which is now on the screen showing us what devices, where, or what devices are in the network. Okay, so the network is, let's say, semi-live. What that means is that the wireless is in the air and the content is on the screen. So if you wish to join and to be part of my demo, please feel free to join. No trouble at all. The access point, the SSID is in the air. We will see how it works in this environment. And please, the demo is very simple. If you crash it, I'm no trouble at all. I will recover. But if you crash it, we will not see the outcome. So there are some passwords. They are simple. So if you connect there, you can see what is happening. But please, at least 3-5 minutes to have it working. Okay. So how to connect to that network? There is SSID, which is called single SSID. Okay. And if you connect to the single SSID, you will be part of the screen. Okay. So let me do that with you together. So I do have such a easy device like a tablet, and if I'm lucky enough, it will be able to connect to the wireless, and when it connects to the wireless, I will be able to share my screen. Yeah, so that's my screen. Let's go to some web page. And you should get something like this. So if I go to Disney, I will be redirected. I'm redirected to some captive portal. So I would like to show you the power of the management, and then what we can leverage, how we can harvest the information from the management, how we can change the management information which is available. Okay. So this is an example of a guest network portal. Okay, so if you wish, you can go to the registration and then you can go to the internet. Don't expect any beautiful throughput, whatever. Okay, all of you will go through my hotspot. Okay, so nothing really outstanding, but just to show the essence. So if you click on registration, there is some registration portal. It's not the case to explain what are the options for registration. I would like to just to mention that. And if you are internal person, you can log in with your credentials. So it will be very secure now. As you can see my screen, but the password is easy. You can see just one letter, right? So if I am good enough, I will be able to, to go through registration process. And in the meantime, we should be able to see what's happening. So, as I mentioned on this screen, we do have the devices which are in my network or which were in my network in the past. Okay? So you can see that this device here is status accepted. You can see the last seen, when the device was last in the network, when the device was first in the network is in the next column. You can see the IP address of the device. You can see the MAC address of the device. You can see some fingerprint. Okay, like host name, device family, device type. If you look at the device type, we can see, for example, Mac operating system, Android, even some Blackberries, or Symbian, Fluke, whatever it is. Yeah, Nuke, Amazon Kindle. So those devices were in my network. So just explaining what you can see, everything which connects to the network can be somehow recorded. And the recording, I mean record for that device. And if I say everything, I don't care if it is wired or wireless, if it is through VPN, if it is virtual, like virtual desktop running somewhere in the data center, okay, or if it is physical. I really don't care. I do have all that information on the screen, okay? Everything is recorded, everything can be used. So if you look more here, I logged in as a staff 1, correct? If you go to this registration and you put there you are Joan of Arc, okay, you will see that there is Joan of Arc, whoever it is true or not, I don't care. Okay, so that information can be there. The next thing which you can see here is where the device is connected, like switch. Okay, you can see that I do have some wireless device. That's my IP address of the controller, or it can be switch itself, wired. I do see some name. I do see a port where the device is connected. Like access point number 2, that's the name of my access point. Like the BSSID, which is the radio information, SSID. If it is wired, you can see that this is this switch, and the port is port 7, and the port is called access point port. Okay? In the past, I had something on the port 8, on the port 5, on the port 3, whatever. Anything which is connected to the network can be managed, can be seen. The next thing which I would like to mention is you can see something which is called policy. Today it is very trendy, it's very security oriented, it's very important that you do not allow everyone or anything to connect to the network with admin privileges. That's not what you want. That's not what security allows you. Okay? So what that means is that if I connect to the same access point as you, if anyone will connect to the same port as the access point is, different policy, different profile will be applied. What that means? I do have something which is called stuff here. Is there anyone who passed this? Oh yeah, cool. Thank you. So I do have some people here. Yeah, someone was able to get my password. Excellent. Welcome to the network. Okay? So I do have two devices which does have the same user. Excellent. Both devices do have the same policy. The policy defines the access. Okay? So here I do have one device on the 2.4 gigahertz radio, one device on 5 gigahertz radio, different BSSID. You see that? Here, but both of them have the same profile. Here I have more devices registered as a guest with some name. Okay? So, what guest means? What stuff means? That's something which you can define, and you should define in the real network. So if I go to the policy and choose, for example, stuff. So if you look at the stuff definition, I do have some class of service stuff. If you look at the traffic, some services, I do not limit the user who is stuff to anything. No limitation in my case. If I look at guest access, so guest access does have class of service guest access. So different class of service, different priority, different rate limit. I will show you a little bit later. But there are some limitations. So if you are a guest, what you can do, or better, what you cannot do. Okay? So no chance for AppleTalk, Banyan, DeckNet, Novell. No one is using those protocols at all these days. That's what admin will tell you. That's not what Wireshark will show you. Okay? Every printer by definition does have IPX enabled. It's history, it's heritage, but that's it. Okay? So if such device will send the traffic to the network, I will just block it. It makes no sense to transfer it to create a noise on your network. Okay? The next thing which guest can do or cannot do. So the guest in general can do bootp, so DHCP. The guest in general can HTTP, HTTPS, and VPN. The rest is deny TCP, deny UDP, deny ICMP. Okay? Just to understand what I'm showing and what I'm doing, it's something which is called profile-based network or access controls at the edge of the network. Okay? So even if you connect to the same access point, even if you connect to the same SSID, different profiles will be applied. And the same works on the wire. The same can work over the VPN. The same can be in the data center for the virtual machines. It's not only about stopping the traffic or allowing the traffic. More important sometimes it's quality of service. So even if sales guy will connect to the network, to the same port as system engineer or marketing person will connect to the network. Each of those do have critical applications defined different way. Okay? So if I'm a marketing person, YouTube can be a business critical application for me. If I'm a system engineer, YouTube will not be usually will not be business critical application. If I'm HR, LinkedIn and Facebook and those kind of social networking will be the critical application for me. And what a critical application means? Better throughput, better priority. Why? If there is a bottleneck in the network, if there is some issue in the network, that traffic must go through. If not, the quality of user experience will be bad. If the quality of user experience is bad, my manager will kill me. Or fire, who cares? Okay? Or maybe my manager will be fired, even worse. Okay? It depends on my position. So the quality of experience is the only thing which matters today. Okay? And security is the number 2. Okay? So I talked already about the quality of service. So if I am a guest, I do have a guest access. If I am a staff, I do have a staff profile. If you look at the class of service for guest, 1 megabit in, 1 megabit out. Yep, some priority, some queue. If I am staff, 5 megabit in, 5 megabit out. So different class of service. You have seen my screen, correct? I was unregistered. With unregistered, all the traffic is blocked or redirected to the captive portal. But even if the traffic was blocked or redirected, I was able to share my screen. Like I'm doing now. Okay? If you look at unregistered, or now I'm staff, right? 5 megabits. So if I do some performance monitoring, I do have something like 5 megabits. That's stuff. Okay? Stuff is rate limited to 5 megabits. But even if I have 5 megabits here, I'm still able to share my screen. Why? Because there was unregistered, and with unregistered I do have, and that's the same for the staff, or should be, I do have some rules which are telling for this sharing the screen, different profile is applied. Okay, so let's return back here and let's continue. So now you do understand what is the profile or what is the policy. The next thing here can be the reason. So imagine the network which is small. That's easy. You will have 2, 3 rules, 5 rules maybe. I do have a customer which is a nuclear research institute. Nuclear research institute with 250 employees, with 700 rules in the network management. They do have different rules for different locations. Like this type of user on this type of device at that location means different profile. Make sense? So 250 users, 700 rules. So for each such rule, we do have a name, like guest registered, like staff on captive portal, like unregistered, like access point, like IT conference, whatever it was in the past. The next thing I would like to mention could be the security. It would not be polite from me if I invite you to my network and then start to scan and show that you have some vulnerabilities. So I do not do the scan for everyone, but I can. So if I do scan, you can see, for example, that this device did have high risk. And this device did have some scoring. And I can investigate what kind of risk it was. And based on the risk level, I can decide access granted, access denied, or access granted with specific profile. So even if it is CIO and he is on his bring your own, but he is not on compliant device, I can not grant him the access to the corporate resources. I can give him access to quarantine or to guest only, to internet only. Okay? So based on the risk level, I can also apply different profiles, different access. And then we have a lot of more information if it makes sense in some cases. Okay. So let's continue with the demonstration. How real it is or not. Yeah, device is trying to save the battery, so it disconnected already. So let's share the screen again. Let's share the screen. Okay, so I do have something like 5 megabits in general. Oops. What I can do so that was my iPad, right? So I will not modify this second guy who was able to get my password. So add to the group elevated guest. So instead of staff, I will be now elevated guest. So I can, on the fly, change the network behavior. Okay, 23. (20 megabits per second). Okay, so I can control who is accessing my network, and I can change that on the fly. So if I do reload, you can see now that the profile was granted elevated guest. if I took some details about the end system, I see that this device is MAC address, IP address, host name. It is Apple. It is connected through the wireless. It is in the state accepted. Here is the location. Here are applications which are transferred over that network. If I go to history and again sort it, you see that I was unregistered, then I was staff, and now I'm elevated guest. You can have the full history of the end system. Okay? You see the username, it was changed. If the IP address is changed, all those details can be there. You can search on the map. How many access points I need for triangulation? 3, thank you. If I have 1, it's not enough, correct? So that's not precise location, it's something like I am in this distance from the access point. If I have 3, the box would be much heavier. Okay, I need more cabling. But I can even work with triangulation if I have more access points for triangulation. I can have the map to see where the user is. And I can do the time-lapse location to see where the user was. So if the user is roaming, I can see that. By the way, this feature is the feature why customers like airports, like shopping malls, are providing you Wi-Fi for free. They want to know where you are, where you walk, where you stop, where you spend your time. Yep, it is. That's the reality. This is the reason why the Prague airport just bought a new wireless half a year ago. The only criteria was, are you able to provide me location and information which I can use for marketing? Okay? Imagine shops like Alsasoft. You come there and your phone is beaconing. Bluetooth is beaconing. Your phone is searching for Wi-Fi. It is sending probes to the air. Access points are gathering those information and they are doing a triangulation where you are, how quick you walk, where you stay. Okay? And this is the moneymaker for the marketing. Okay? If you look at the standard shop, like Globus, like Tesco, there are very famous combos which people are buying. One of the very famous combo is diapers for children and beer. Why? It's obvious, right? My wife is going buying beer for me and diapers for my children. If you look at that, in each and every shop, these are on completely opposite ends of the store. You need to walk through whole Globus, through whole Tesco, whatever, just name it. Okay? This is the reason. Marketing. Utilization of the behavior. Okay? So, any user. Another useful use case. Okay? Just imagine that someone is calling to the help desk. Hey, the network sucks. Excellent. What is your MAC address? I'm on Windows. Good. Okay, so what is your... Okay, IP doesn't make sense either. Okay, so what is your name? That's usually our people are able to answer, right? MAC address, not really. So if you search for the name, you can search for the name. And the help desk now can start to talk. Can start to talk to the user. Okay, I see 2 devices now here. I see on iPad or on Android. You said Windows, so that's something wrong. Yeah, the example is wrong. Okay, so let's continue with the iPad. I can have information like on what SSID, what access point, what is the approval level, first scene, last scene, the signal strength, error rate, the utilization of the link, access points, number of clients. This information updates every 30 seconds. Information about the switch, like utilization. If I'm really geek, I can do right click, real capture, start real capture, and I have the data, what the access point is sending to the wire now. Oh yeah, remind me later. I can do even this. Let's go to the 5 gigahertz interface. You see beacons. You see SSIDs which are in the air. So now imagine how the troubleshooting can work. Just providing the username. I don't need to search in beautiful databases like this user is usually going from this computer. I do have the information. Map, session, network information can be useful also. Interface details. It does load the information, so you have the wired interface details. You have the wireless details. It looks like I have some issue. Wireless details. Run. 30 seconds. And it updates. So I do have information about the client, about the controller, access point, radio 1, radio 2. What applications is this user running? Facebook, Google, Google Talk, Google API, some encrypted web in general. If I go to my tablet, application summary, AirPlay, Disney, Google. Okay. This information is available or can be available in the management, the network management. I can go to analytics. I can see for each and every flow information about the source, about the destination, about the traffic. I can see something which is called network response time, application response time. So if I'm a helpless person, I can easily identify if the trouble is the client, if the trouble is with application, if the trouble is the network or the server. Make sense? Okay. Of course, I do have the network map available. So, under what conditions, what devices are up and down. Or what is the utilization, whatever you wish. Yeah, I was a big fan of fantasy, or even I am. So, in general, the network management can provide you the information about the user behavior, about roaming, what is the user behind the network equipment, under what conditions, what is the condition of the equipment itself. Now imagine that we do have such information and we can utilize it. I already mentioned those profiles, so, and demonstrated what is a guest, what is the employee, what is admin, what is IP phone, access point, and those kind of profiles. So just to summarize it, with the network management, I have the evidence and visibility to each and every end system which is in the network. And now let's talk about automation. Now let's talk how to use this information. So that's what you saw. So in general, there is no company on the market does have best firewalls, best switches, best networking routers, best antivirus, best servers, best location services on the world, best telephony. So at the end, you need an ecosystem so the customer can choose. Okay, I would like to have this kind of firewalls. Excellent. This kind of load balancers. Excellent. This network equipment. Good. This wireless. Fine. And then, if those devices or those solutions do have API, they can talk to each other and they can share information. And the important thing why I was doing this demonstration was, okay, yeah, that's our product, but more important, there is a source of information which you can utilize. So, one place how you can utilize such kind of information is the data center. So if you look at the data center in general is a completely different world. There are different people, different products, different philosophies which are in the data center. And even more, what is the trouble? Server people do not talk to network people, or opposite. Okay? So, if there could be an option to synchronize those two worlds, it helps. It helps a lot. Okay? So, for example, in the virtual world, in the hypervisors, you create a new cluster of your servers. So, for example, the company would like to deploy a new SharePoint farm. Excellent. So, the server people will assign hard drives, means storage. They will assign some CPU. They will assign memory. And they will say, okay, so this is my network. And this network needs to be translated to networking people, to VLAN, subnet, firewalling rules, quality of service assignment. Okay? So if you have, for example, VMware, which is definitely the leader, at least in the US, in Europe, a hypervisor from Microsoft, Hyper-V, it's a little bit more utilized. I can probably turn this one off. It's more utilized. But in general, if you have the hypervisor and you create a new network, this can be propagated to the network itself. So the network orchestration, it's optional. Visibility to the virtual network world. So if you look at, for example, VMware, but with Citrix is the same, with Hyper-V it's the same. You assign a virtual machine to the virtual switch, to the virtual port group. This virtual switch can have more physical interfaces, and in reality it does. And then the VMware will choose which physical NIC card this virtual machine will go out. And you have no option to see that, to choose. You have no option to see how it was in the past. Okay? So in the standard deployment, you say, okay, I have 10 ports here to the server, I have 100 virtual machines here, and they will mix and match based on some algorithms which are done. Okay? So if we see where the virtual machine is, we can report it back to virtualization platform. Troubleshooting. So that's what I mentioned already. So we do have provisioning of VLANs. So in the data center, you create a new SharePoint farm, and you say, okay, I will have a new VLAN for that. And this new VLAN will be automatically configured on the wired network and can go to the network infrastructure. We can report the location of the virtual machine. Just imagine that the physical server goes down for maintenance. The physical server can go down because of some hardware failure. The physical server can go down because of, for example, saving of energy. So those virtual machines which were there will move to somewhere else. And we can track that. We can synchronize this information and we can provide the connectivity. The same thing is with VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. So based on who is the user and on what devices this user is connected, we will apply the profile on the network, physical network. And we can provide one profile in the data center where the virtual machine, the virtual desktop is present, or we can provide this profile on the physical infrastructure where the device with the terminal is connected. There can be two different profiles. From the security point of view, I already demonstrated that we do have the information what is the user, what is the end system, and where the user is. So for example, we can share this information with firewalls. Firewall usually does not have an information about the location of the user. Okay? If you want to, with the firewall, do some user assignment, there are some tools how you can do that. They are not 100% correct all the time, but there are some options. But with location you usually don't have this option until you use VLANs. So you have, for example, VLAN 1 or VLAN 10 for the floor 1, and you have VLAN 20 for the floor number 2. And if your user roams from one floor to another floor, you have a trouble. Because going from one floor to another floor, it's changing the VLAN. Changing the VLAN means changing the IP address. Changing the IP address means that, oh, my YouTube session does not work. Okay? The quality of user experience goes down. Oh, user needs to change that. Or wait, whatever. So the solution is to have the same VLAN. But if you have the same VLAN, you are losing the visibility on which floor the user is. And then you cannot apply different profiles for the floor 1 and for the floor 2. Or changing those rules over the time. So for example, there are schools or universities where the teacher can say, okay, and from now the lecture starts. And okay, from now the exam starts. So the whole network is reconfigured. So students during the lecture does have access to resources, and during the exam does have access only to exam tests. And the network can be automated to do that. Just the teacher will press the button. Okay? And all this is done based on we know where the user is, and we can tell that to the firewall. And firewall will stop it or apply the correct profile. Another thing is, for example, session hijacking. That's a nice option. So if you connect to the network, you get your IP address. You authenticate somehow, and the firewall knows that this IP address is user 1 and staff, for example, okay, staff, and staff does have this access. So then you close your computer and start another one with the same MAC address, okay, with the same IP, and you just connect. The firewall has no idea how to get this information. Does not have a chance to get this information. But we saw that. We saw that the port went down, if it is a physical, or the drivers has changed, or the deauthentication happened on the wireless. Okay? So we can tell to the firewall, hey, stop, all sessions closed. A new session, and try to authenticate the new user. So no session hijacking. So for example, with Palo Alto, that's a different vendor for firewall, you can see that in logs you have the user is, this information goes from the network management. Another option or another use case is, for example, blacklisting the user. So the firewall today, in general, comes not only with firewalling feature, but usually it does have some anti-everything. Okay, so anti-malware, anti-virus, anti-everything. So if such device will find out some threat in the network, something bad, this device can inform network management. And network management can disconnect you from the network. The same way like I change the profile on the fly, I can disconnect the end system from the network. Or I can rate limit it. Not increase the bandwidth, but decrease the bandwidth. I can work with that. Not only Palo Alto, but also Fortinet, another vendor of, let's say, security. So how does it work? I already explained that. So in general, the user connects to the network, wired or wireless. The management will inform the firewall what happened, and the mapping is applied. So the firewall will apply correct firewalling rules. I can say to the firewall, hey, this is Apple device and you should apply that profile. Or I can say, hey, that's Android device, apply that profile. This is this location or that location. I can work with that. iBoss is a vendor for load balancers. So I can do, load balancer and web filtering. In this case, that's web filtering. So web filtering. So I can apply different web filtering profiles for different users without any special integration to the client. Okay, so the same will be also for location. So an example here, that's network management, and here is the mapping going to, you see student and staff, both are on the same subnet. So different web filtering will apply. Lightspeed, that's another use case for web filtering. Oh yeah. Lara does not have access. Oops, that looks like a little bit missed slide. Okay, I will revert to that slide a little bit later. SIEM, Security Information and Event Management. The idea is quite simple. Everything which happens in the network can be sent to the log management for later analysis, investigation if needed. The user moves from one port to another port, can be there. The user disconnected, user connected. And opposite, if this anti-whatever SIEM will detect a malicious pattern, can inform the management to stop the traffic. So for example, the IPS, that's quite simple. IPS will detect that there is some issue, will inform the management, and the management will take an action. Can be fully automated. Antivirus. Antivirus can give us a lot of information. So you have seen the fingerprint. The fingerprint told us, hey, cool, that's an Apple device, or it's Windows, or Android. Okay? Antivirus can tell us more. Antivirus can tell us it's not only the Windows, but it is Windows with this and those service packs. Because antivirus is installed on the machine, antivirus does have better knowledge about the end system. So this information can be gathered in the network management. We did have a use case here for antivirus, and the antivirus was so, let's say, not good. Okay, let's have it this way. So if the antivirus client was not connected to the management, the there was no way, and the client was not able to recover from that situation. Okay? So we have seen that this end system is in the network. We provided that information to the management of antivirus, and antivirus was able to correlate the information. Hey, there is a long or old client, not updated. So the management was able to make some action. The action could be again through the management to change the VLAN, to put the user to the quarantine, to force to update the client. Okay? Opposite. If the antivirus will find out that this device is infected, it can report this information to the management, network management, and network management could put the user to the quarantine, to force the user to get healthy again, to remediate the status. So some example here. User is in quarantine. Bring your own. Bring your own is a very, let's say, popular topic for last maybe 4 years now. A lot of companies now have the fear or is investing to the security, and let's have it from different point of view. I was at the customer, and the customer was quite big here in Czech. And the customer will say, ask, so what's about the security and bring your own? The customer said, no way. We do not allow anyone to connect something which is not approved to the network. I said, okay, if this is your policy and it works, fine. After 1 year, I saw, hey, did you say that you are not allowed? You know what? The director came and he said, yeah, I understand the policy, but we will change this policy. So, if you are compliant with the company policy, okay, but the company's policy can change. And it depends who has higher power, who has better position. So, in general, the idea of bring your own is happening. Okay? It is happening, it is quite obvious, and it is there. So, the idea is that you will get your own device and you will get it to the network and you will use it not only for personal, but also for business purposes. And if you use the device for both personal and business purposes, there are some issues with that. Like who is responsible for the device, who is responsible for the software, who is responsible from the security point of view and from a legal point of view. Okay? So, for example, there is an option if this device is lost, or if you fire that person, you must have an option to delete only the business-related data, not the personal data. Okay? So for such, let's say, deployments, there are solutions which are called MDM, Mobile Device Management. Mobile Device Management can be, for example, from, let's say, those like Mobile Iron, like AirWatch, like Sophos, JMAF, and others. In general, Mobile Iron or AirWatch does have something like 90% of market share together. Okay? So these are the two main players. The idea is simple. You install the client on your phone or on your bring your own device, tablet, whatever. And this client is limiting, monitoring, and limiting the access to the corporate resources. So instead of having standard web browser, if you go to the internet, you are using different web browser. Instead of having mail browser or mail client, you have different mail client for that. And then this client can be limited, can be blocked, can be controlled by the company. So if I say that, it means that I have again the client software on the client device. Which means that if I can, from the networking point of view, talk to the management like Mobile Iron or AirWatch, I can get the information about compliance of that device. I can report the location and I can see that information. So for example, there is one ISP service provider here in Czech which is using Mobile Iron, and they are using it for internal people, of course. So if you come to the office of such operator, you have a Wi-Fi. You connect there, and this Wi-Fi will ask you for the phone number. On the phone number will be sent an SMS, and the SMS, you take the password to the web browser. So at the end, the operator knows if you are customer, prospect, which means customer of the competition, or if you are internal employee. Because based on the phone number, they know everything. Okay? And now, with the mobile iron, they know that even upfront. You don't need to go through this procedure because you have already client on the phone or on the tablet. So it is already approved device. And they can check if this device is company owned or bring your own, the user owned. And based on that, they can apply different profiles. Again, on the network. Okay? So the integration does make sense. Oh yeah, this one is quite funny. It is a CEO, and he is on the iPad. It is not encrypted, so what I will do? It depends. It depends who has the higher power. If it is this level, I will be access granted. Okay? It depends. From the MDM, we can get information about the client much more deeper. Like not only that's Android, but what version of Android it is. If it is tablet or phone, what is the amount of memory, and such information. Even the phone number. And that was the slide which was here, right? No. It was this one. It was this one where you can see that it is on the switch and it is business, and there was no phone number. Yeah, there was no phone number because it was tablet. Okay, but we have this information from the MDM that it is business, not personal device, and there is no risk. And it is Android 4.4 and some beautiful version. Another use case for the integration. Again, we do have the knowledge where the end system is. Okay? So if one end system does want to have a phone call to another, we know where is the source and where is the end. What are the parties which are talking each other. Okay? So, Microsoft Link, now called Skype for Business. That's such a great tool, such a great solution, which does not support quality of service on each and every end system. So there are some where it is supported and there are some where not. So for example, on iPad does not support quality of service. The iPad does, but the Skype for Business does not. Okay? If you look at, let's say, managers, think about the Skype for Business. What kind of devices, what kind of users are using Skype for Business? Standard workers? Not really. That's management level, C-level, directors level. So that are the people which would like to share the knowledge, they would like to share the vision. So what computers do they have? Good ones. Absolutely the best one. Absolutely agree. I'm sorry, it's not yours, it's not mine. Okay? Yeah. It's in general, it is MacBook Pro, whatever. Okay? What screen resolution does have such beautiful notebooks? The highest ever. So, if there is such user who would like to share the wisdom, the knowledge, what he will do? He will create a Skype for Business session for audio, and there's a camera for video also, and let's share the screen. Good, excellent. Now combine that with the information what I said to you, that the quality of service does not work on every end system. What that means that if you are very good admin, you can manage to have some specific UDP TCP ports and to assign the quality of service to those ports to have your to your Skype for Business experience good. But if someone knows that, they can hijack those sessions. I mean, they can use the same TCP UDP ports for their telnet to get good quality. So static does not work well from this point of view. Another point of view is you need really 3 different class of services for that. You need one for audio, which is the highest. The next one is the video, and the lowest quality of service, but still very good comparing to email, is the desktop sharing. Okay? So there is a server from Microsoft Skype for Business, Link server, which does have this information. So if you would like to create a session, you schedule the session, and then the client will tell the server, hey, I am creating, this is the voice, this is the video, this is the desktop sharing session. So if there is an API, and on Microsoft side there is an API, and on our management point of view there is an API, we will get the information that this is the guy who wants to share, and this is the audio, this is the video, and this is the desktop sharing session. On the other end, I do have the guy who is listening for that. Again, audio, again, maybe video, maybe desktop sharing session. So I get, as a management, I get this information. And as a management, I know where the end system is connected, to what access point, to what switch and port. So I can dynamically configure the quality of service for that particular session. And if the session is over, I can deconfigure it. So it cannot be hijacked, it cannot be misused. Okay? If you have network management, if you have the video or audio or whatever conferencing tool, it makes sense to combine them together. Yeah, that's what I mentioned. Another thing which can help you later with that is if you get from this audio conferencing tool, you get the information about the quality of the session, how it was. Was it good? Was it bad? The client can tell you. Okay? So then we can get this information and we can combine it with the information where the user was. So then you can get information like, for example, hey, in general, the quality of user experience sucks on Android, or on Apple, or on Windows, or on that particular switch, or at that location for that particular access point. So you can combine that information and you can benefit from that. Like here on the screen. Application response time and network response time. That's also something which I demonstrated and I show in the reel, right? For the session, you can see the network response time, application response time. We can measure it also, and we can combine that information together. Audio conferencing tools, or in general voice over IP. Imagine the situation that you will spread phones to the people without any pre-configuration, without anything you do upfront with those phones. So the user will just unpack the phone, hey, thank you, I have a new phone, put it on the desk, connect it, and say, yeah, that's me, with the extension. And based on where the phone will appear, the correct language will be applied. So you have one telephony system, and if you unpack the phone and connect it in the Slovak, you will have Slovak language. If you do that in Poland, it will be Polish. In Czech, Czech. In Germany, German. Without any, different phone distribution, pre-deployment or whatever. The network knows where the end system is, and the network can tell that to the management of the telephony. another integration. The same with Avaya. The same with Polycom. We will be a little bit quicker. Okay. So another use case is integration with Microsoft System Security Center or Operation Center, Operation Manager. Idea is quite simple. Microsoft knows all his Windows devices. Microsoft knows what are the patch levels. Microsoft knows what are the settings, if the compliance is there or not. We can integrate the information together and we can react on that. So if you have Windows XP Service Pack 1, 2, whatever, you can have this information from the management and we can put the device to the quarantine. Or maybe we don't put to the quarantine because that such beautiful device is a specific device which we cannot upgrade. By the way, any one of you have seen the blue screen of that on the cash ATM machine? Yep. What you can do with that? Nothing, right? You can just reboot it. You cannot upgrade the cash machine. You cannot download the new patches for that. That's it. Okay? So we do have this information and we can say, okay, so this is Windows XP. Cool. Vulnerable for everything. Just touch it and it will crash. Okay? Service Pack 1 was exactly that kind, right? So what we can do, we can apply the profile which will only allow the communication with the specific server. So no broadcast, nothing will hit it. Integration on demand. Two kinds of integrations which are very similar, which I would like to mention. One is for Samsung as a company. So Samsung, a research and development center in Warsaw, and in general in Poland, they do have three locations. I was at the location and it was really nice. So I came to the building. I registered at the registration desk. They took my picture. They print a badge for me, and they put my name, my picture on the badge, and the badge was giving me access to doors. So first, that system was able to track where I am, what doors I opened and what doors I walked through. I was a guest there, so they was able to control me first where I was, and for the second where I can go. Okay? So what we did an integration with this system. So you already need to go to the registration. They do take the picture, and each badge does have a serial number. You have your name, which you provided the registration. So each time someone registered as a guest, automatically the guest account was created for that user. So my name was my username, and the ID of the badge was my password for the wireless. Okay? And when I returned the badge, and I had to return the badge when I was leaving the building, the guest account was automatically deactivated. So no chance to misuse from outside of the building or whatever. Okay? So the user doesn't, that's quite usual. You come to the reception in the hotel. Can I have a guest access? Of course, yeah, you have here. And there is predefined username and predefined password. That's excellent. So what it means, someone was at the registration, nothing more. It's no security at all. No one is ever verifying you. Some hotels are checking what is your name and room number. That's fine. This is easy way to integrate, which does not give any burden to the customer, to the infrastructure, to the person at the reception. There is nothing more. Like, hey, can I have internet access? Of course, yeah. You have it already. An integration option. Any ideas? Any comments? What other integration makes sense? You would like to see?
Cisco.
Yeah, Cisco is the vendor. It's not an integration. Integration with Cisco. Integration with Cisco. Okay. No trouble at all. I already mentioned this, this service provider, right? In Czech. Oops. I'm not sure if you mention it or if you recognize that all our switches are purple. This is not the purple color, this is a Cisco switch. Okay? So we can have our management over Cisco network. We can have that management over Cisco wireless. No trouble at all. Okay? Even with Cisco switches, Cisco routers, Cisco servers. I don't care. That's our management, and we can integrate with anyone else, even with Cisco. No trouble at all. Thank you for that. Any other ideas? Comments, maybe? Feedback? Notes? Was it boring? Thank you. Absolutely.
Like what it costs to integrate just this kind of thing?
Okay. So the question is what it costs from to integrate. So I am the system engineer. In my contract it's written that I am not allowed to talk about prices except of list price. Okay? So I cannot give you some discounts or whatever. Regarding what it costs, the integration itself does not cost from the money point of view anything. So it's included, so you can just configure it if you wish, or need not configure it if you don't wish. Okay? So if you have already the network management platform and you have firewall, you paid for the firewall, you paid for the management platform, enable it here, and you have the integration done. Okay? So on our side, there is no burden, there is no additional cost. But if you don't have the network management, there is a cost, of course, of the network management. And the cost is not easy to explain, or explain, it's easy, not easy to estimate or to publish. Because the cost can go from $1,500 up to unlimited. Okay? Yeah, my sales guy is saying it is unlimited. I know that the number of electrons in the universe, or even number of IP addresses, even IPv6 is limited. Okay? So yeah, it can go really, really high. So we can go to $200,000 to $1 million. It depends on the implementation. Okay? So if we talk about small network, it can be really small amount of money. But if we talk about the big network, for example, yeah, I know that Volkswagen is not really nice use case today, but the Volkswagen in Salzgitter, they are using 300,000 end systems in one factory. Okay, 300,000. Okay, a lot of zeros. So they are using our management over that because everything in that factory is IP connected. Okay, so they are using our management to see where those devices are, what is the profile, and how to monitor that. So you can guess that such deployment will not be on the lower level of the scale. Okay, so we are talking about $100,000. But if you are operating such network, that's the burden and that's the solution which we can provide. You're welcome. Thank you. Yes.
Physically, what protocol does it use? Is it .1x?
Can be, but does not have to. Okay. So in general, the most general deployment is through the MAC authentication or .1x, 802.1x, but it does not have to be. If you have intelligent switch, like of course our switches are, of course, then we do not need to use those. We can use the standard XML. So the switch will detect something new and will report it to the management. Or there are other solutions, not from us, which are periodically checking and logging to the switch and checking what is on the port. Okay? So those, let's say, architectures are different and can differ. Okay? With our approach, we are using the intelligent switch, which is able to detect that and report it based on the XML or based on the MAC authentication or 802.1x authentication. Of course, the 802.1x is the best option. Of course it is. But try to find the customer who is willing to deploy certificates or 802.1x on IP phones. They're not such. Or if they are, they don't have budget for that. Try to take whatever, Cisco, Unify, Avaya IP phone, and enable 802.1x. Datasheet, of course, support it. Try to configure it. It's better this. Okay? So at the end, the security is great, and you can do that for standard computers, but you will have issues with printers, old printers, IP cameras, cache machines, whatever, which do not support 802.1x. Thank you for the question.
You talked about Prague airport
Yep.
integrating the Wi-Fi.
Yep.
How much approximately would a place as big as the Prague airport pay just for the Wi-Fi upgrade?
Can't tell you. Even if I knew, I would not be allowed to publish that information.
All right.
Okay, so we can take it offline because this session is recorded, and I will not take a risk of publishing that information. Okay, so we can take it offline and we can talk and we can estimate. But definitely, the Prague airport, the number one was not the coverage. Number one was not the quality of user experience. The number one was the marketing usage of that. Okay, thanks for the question. Yes?
Do you have all kind of networking devices? I mean, do you have your firewall, switches, routers?
No. So Extreme is producing wireless, switches, routers, management. Yeah, that's probably the main thing. So no firewalls, no servers. We are agnostic from this point of view. No IP telephony, no cameras. Oh yeah, we will have a camera. We will have access point combined with the camera in March next year. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
May I ask for the recommended specification for server that should run the management? If we can tell, in a small company with 50 people.
Okay, so first, if it is a small company with 50 people, this solution is probably an overkill for such company. Okay, so it will be the very low scale from the pricing point of view. So the smallest solution which we have from the licensing does have 5 switches, which and 500 end systems. So that's 50 people. It's 10 devices per user, which is probably too much. But yeah, and that's the scale of, let's say, 1,000 of US dollars, not 1,000, but less than 10. And regarding the hardware specification, I would be absolutely confident to run it on my multimedia station from Shuttle. Okay, so that's very simple. I have 16 gig of RAM. Okay, and I have SSD disk 250 gigabytes, and that runs like really easy, very easy, no trouble at all.
So maybe we will lead to the next question on one-to-one basis.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your lecture.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.